Welcome, boys and ghouls, to Likeits1985's 2012 Monster Mash action figure review. Today we'll take a look at 13 ghoulish action figures from Likeits1985's collection. Alright, that was my poor attempt at the sound effects from Friday the 13th. But since this is a review of Jason Voorhees from said movie, I at least had to try. So this is a NECA release, and let's first take a look at the packaging for Jason Voorhees here. This is the battle damage version. And on the back you get a brief, very brief description of what this movie is all about. If you really needed to know, if you have been one of the few people not to see this movie, you can read that. And there. So, on to Jason Voorhees. Well, my name actually is Jason, so I always kind of identified with this particular character. So I decided to pick up this figure and review it for this Halloween special. So the first accessory that Jason comes with is this blade. You can see it has some red coloring there to resemble blood. So that's pretty cool. And he comes with this axe. And you can see that there. The axe does stay really well in his hand. Let me go ahead and remove that and put in the actual blade here. See how that works out. Yep. No problems there. I kind of like the blade myself in terms of how he looks. So, let's take a close look at the figure first. Now, regarding the head sculpt, well, you can see his iconic hockey mask, and you can actually see his eyes behind the mask, which is really creepy. So, you can also remove the mask, and you can see the very ugly mug of Jason. What's the saying? A face only a mother could love? In this case, it has particular meaning. In this case, it has particular meaning because of the plot of the movie. But you can see he has a big old nasty looking gash there on the top of his head. Some blood running down the side of his face. So if he wasn't already ugly enough, he's now very, very grotesque looking. And he's got blood running down his neck there. And you can take a look and see how this works here. It just slips over the head and stays on nice and securely there. Articulation, well, the head appears to be on a ball joint all the way around. You got a little up, a little down, so that's good. Side to side. This is just a joint like that. You can go out to the side to that degree and all the way around. You do have a bend at the elbow and a rotation. Swivel at the wrist. And there is just a bit of waist articulation you can see there. And the legs forward, back, out to the side. And as I'm doing this review here, I noticed this material here is a softer plastic, where this is the leg itself is a harder plastic. So that's good because you can actually, kind of force the leg forward. Whereas if this was a stiffer plastic, it would not go as far, and the range of articulation would not be as great. So that's a good choice of material on NECA's part. And then you have a bend at the leg, but you don't have a, you do have a bend and a swivel motion at the leg. And just ever so slightly you have articulation at the ankle, just appears to be back and forth like that. But as you know, NECA is more known for its sculpt detail than it is for its points of articulation. And, as we move down and take a closer look at the rest of the figure here, pretty nice. So as we take a look at the figure here closely, you can see there's more nice details in the body, some more blood here. You can see the wrinkles in his shirt, You can see there's some scuffing or some dirt on his pants, more blood here, and some dirt here or scuffing around the bottom of his pants. His boots are nicely detailed. Alright, this has been a look at the NECA Jason Voorhees figure. The next shocking review comes from Bandai. This is a 2012 release. This is Godzilla or Godzilla. And before we take a look at the figure, let's take a look at the packaging here. Pretty neat artwork there. On the back, you have a look at the other figures. And apparently the figure that I have here is the Millenium Godzilla. Even though on the front it doesn't say which variant, if you will, of Godzilla it is. But, focusing on the figure now, there's not going to be a lot of articulation on this, and it's going to be very, very basic articulation at that. Just in general, though, looks pretty cool. I don't know what the deal is with his what would be his left foot here. It's kind of splayed up. I guess it's meant to be like that, but it's kind of weird. So he kind of just rests on his foot like that. It's kind of an odd position, but the sculpt, to get back to that original thought there, is pretty nice. I mean, this is a fairly cheap figure. It was about $13. So yeah, you have very basic articulation. We can take a look at the head sculpt there. No articulation at the neck, nor at the jaw. I mean, you can squeeze his jaw together, but that's really because of the plastic and not the fact that there's a joint there. So you have articulation here, just below the shoulder on both arms. So we can do that. Then he has articulation at the legs, and that's all he can do with his legs, is just swivel like that. And it looks like there's a joint here, but it's really not wanting to go. You can see there's like a cut there. It would seem like his tail would move, but I'm using a lot of force here and it's not moving, so it must just kind of be where maybe they had to cast the figure as two different parts and the tail's attached here. I'm not sure, but it's not moving at all. It's not like it's stiff or anything like that. It's just not moving. I like the way his I'm going to call them spikes, even though that's probably not the correct term. But I like the way his spikes here are sculpted in the way that they are tipped here with some dark purple paint. I think that's pretty cool. And this is my very, very first Godzilla or Godzilla figure in my toy collection, so it's pretty cool. So there you go. A look at Millenium Godzilla from Bandai. The next hideous review concerns a vintage 1980s character from the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe storyline. This is Too Bad. And as you can see, Too Bad here has two heads, and basically you can see how the figure is basically half and half. You got the what is the left side of the figure with a purple scaled type of skin. On the right here you have the blue skin, and due to age, I believe this was more blue fading into purple as far as the right leg is concerned. I actually got this loose on from eBay. But you can see very basic articulation as you'd expect from a vintage 1980s figure. Pretty fantastic looking head sculpts though, or head sculpts I should say. And I believe the figure has like two different personalities. So you have a swivel at the neck for both heads, and you have the shoulders here, which are oddly positioned on this kind of joint there. I think it's designed for like an action feature. Same thing with the other arm. You got swivel at the waist, and again you can see how it's doing that. I think it's for like for a punching effect. And then you have the legs, which if you extend out the legs or pull the legs out, you can see the joint there. Kind of an elasticized rubber. But, you know, it's just like that. And below the hips there's no articulation. So, but, you know, what can you expect from a 1980s action figure with gimmicks? And the figure does come with a shield as well, so you can see it clips onto his forearm. Well, not that way, but like this. So there you go. Too bad. Up next, we're going to take a look at the Masters of the Universe Classics Chief Carnivus. And of course, the figure comes with the white box. And inside the box, of course, you get the packaging that holds the actual figure. And on the back, of course, you have a look at the other figures. And you do have a bio for Chief Carnivus. Now, the reason I picked up this figure is just based solely on how the figure looks. I know nothing about the character. I have never watched the newer animated series that apparently this figure comes from. But I like the look, and as I've stated so many times before, I love figures with swords. You can see he comes with this really nice sword, and he holds it pretty well. You can see there, no problems there. And I'll go ahead and take that out. And just before I forget, let me mention the fact that the cape here does come off. It does come off rather easily, so you can take that off if you want. You can also take off the armor here. This whole section of armor here is attached as one piece. You can slip it over the head, or actually you probably would have to pop off the head off the ball joint and then slip off the armor. It'd probably be easier that way. But you do have that option if you want to. So looking at the head sculpt, very nice, very, very cool. I'm really digging these new Masters of the Universe Classics figures. They're really, really cool. It's hard for me not to buy too many of them. But yeah, just like the look of the figure. It does come with the shield here. Very, very nice detail, very nice paint and sculpt. And as for articulation, the head has a range of movement. Although with the cape on, you can see it sort of gets caught in the cape, so you'd have a little more articulation, I think, if you took the cape off. But you can see it appears to be on a ball joint. You've got shoulder articulation. Again, if you took off the armor, you'd have less of a problem. Swivel at the bicep, bend at the elbow, just a single bend, and a rotation of the wrist, just a swivel. There is no hinge there, as you can see. You got the ab crunch, back, forward, swivel at the waist. You've got legs, and again, the legs here are going to clash with his armor here, so they go out about that far and about that far forward, back, and you have a swivel at the hip. Looks like it's just pegged into the hip portion there. And then you have a bend at the knee, just a single bend. And you have articulation just above where it's not really a boot, where this leg armor is. So you can see there's a joint that rotates there. And you have the articulation here at the ankle. Now you can only pivot like this. You can go forward and back, but not side to side. But you can use the joint up above here to get the leg, or rather the foot, to move how you want it to, in addition to this joint here. So, really nice. I like the armor. Armor looks cool. And just an overall nice figure. The next creepy review is a figure from the DC Universe Classics. This is Sinestro Scarecrow from Wave 17. And first, let's take a quick look at the packaging here. And on the back, of course, you have a look at the figure, a bio, a statistics section, and then a look at the other figures in this wave. If you collect all the figures, you can build the Anti-Monitor. So, on to the figure itself. First accessory, if you will, that comes with the figure is the right leg for the anti-monitor. And on to the figure itself. The most creepy part about this figure is the head sculpt, and specifically the eyes. Let me go ahead and focus your attention there. And the eyes are really just, yeah, there we go. Just very creepy. They appear to be actually yellow, and they appear to be staring right at me. Ooh. So, good look at the head sculpt there. The other accessory the figure does come with is the yellow lantern, which kind of dangles in his hand there. It holds in there, but it can fall out pretty easily. Nothing too fantastic about this. Just a yellow lantern. And you can see here on his right hand finger, well, I should say that the index finger of his right hand, he does have the yellow power ring. And the other neat part about this figure is the cloak, or the jacket. It does have some darker brown paint to give this some more shadowed look. You can see the sculpt of the jacket here is pretty nice. The jacket doesn't really appear to be removable, although actually, now that I look, you probably actually could get it off, but it would be kind of a chore to do so. And the actual hat here is interesting. It does not come off. Articulation, well, you got the head here. Articulation appears to be a ball joint at the neck, shoulders, and you have bicep swivel, a double bend at the elbow, and you have rotation and a bend at the wrist. You do have ab articulation and waist articulation. Legs go forward, back, and out the side like that. Then you have a swivel joint above the knee, two joints at the knee, and one more joint at the ankle. Pretty cool figure. Like I say, the creepiest part about this figure, which makes it so good, is the eyes. Alright, let's move on to the next spooky review. The next hellish review comes from ToyBiz. This is Marvel Legends Ghost Rider. And as you can see, Ghost Rider does come with a rather large accessory. So let's start looking at that first. Obviously this is a motorcycle. And what is interesting is on the bottom here, this is actually flat. It does have these two rollers, one here and one here, that allow the motorcycle to go back and forth. So that's quite interesting. Also, you notice there's actually some slots here. It looks like what you can do possibly is insert a nail head into the slot there, and maybe what they're meaning for you to do is actually have it mounted on a wall, something like that perhaps. Doesn't really make too much sense. Although I will point out that on the stand here, there actually is a peg, and the peg actually does fit into the bottom of his feet. So perhaps it's meant to be like mounted on a wall, you know, vertically. But anyhow, really nicely detailed. You got the nice flaming wheels. You got some silver and almost like black paint here for the wash. You can see them pretty nicely detailed. It's not really meant to be a standalone accessory. It's more like a prop on which the figure can sit or be posed with. So let me put that in the background and take a look at Ghost Rider here. First we'll take a look at his head sculpt. You can see the flame that's coming out of his skull. It almost appears like he's going Super Saiyan 3 or something, the way that the flames are all wild coming out of his head. But nicely sculpted, nicely painted. The skull itself has a lot of detail into it as well. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but he actually does have red pupils inside of his skull eye sockets, if you can make that out there. So pretty cool. And we can take a look at the rest of the figure here. Articulation. It appears there actually is 2 points of articulation, one at the base of the neck and one at where the actual head is connected to the neck. So you got a wide range of possibility there. Shoulders, bicep, elbows, forearm swivel, wrists, and the four fingers here are on a joint. You can see there. Ab articulation, which is rather loose, but this is a figure I got as part of a loose figure lot, so it wasn't new when I got the figure first. You have articulation at the waist, just a little bit of movement at the legs, swivel at the thigh, double bend at the knee, swivel at the boot, and you have ankle and toe articulation. So pretty cool. Ghost Rider. And again, like I mentioned before, you got peg holes here that correspond to these pegs right there on either side. There you go. Marvel Legends ToyBiz Ghost Rider. 3, 2, 1. The next ghastly review comes from ToyBiz. This is a figure released back in 1994. This is a figure from the Spiderman, the new animated series. This figure is Weapon Arms Carnage. The figure comes with 3 weapons accessories. And on the back of the box here, there's a picture of Carnage, a bio, and a look at the other figures from this line. So I like Venom and I like Carnage, I really do, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to pick up this figure. It has some cool weapons accessories, and as you can see, the scale of this figure is about in the 3 3/4 or 4-inch scale. And I've already attached 2 of the weapons accessories. Here on his right arm is one of them. I'll go ahead and detach this. So that's all there is to that. And here is the other one on his left arm. Again, I'll go ahead and detach that. And finally, the third accessory you get is the axe. And you can see how it looks on his arm there. And for the most part, these fit on any of the wrists here. The only one I found that is specific is this one. This one seems to only fit better on the right wrist. In terms of articulation, swivel head, you have swivel shoulders, you have a bend at the elbow, you have a clickety-click torso, and I just realized this, it has a action feature. It seems like the arm goes, or moves a little bit. I don't know if that's showing up on camera really well. But then you have swivel at the hips, bend at the knees, and that is all you have for articulation. Fairly nice representation of Carnage. You can see here, a little up close, and take a look at the head sculpt. Detailing is really nice. On his back here, I'm not sure what this is for. It doesn't move or do anything, it's just like sculpted into the back hit there. I'm not sure what that's for. But yeah, pretty nice figure. I like the weapons accessories, and like I said before, I'm a big fan of Venom and a big fan of Carnage. So there you go. The next figure we'll take a look at is from the 1996 release from ToyBiz, This is Spiderman, Venom, Planet of the Symbiotes. This is Lasher. And Lasher was one of the children of the Venom symbiote. So here he is. Very cool looking figure. Has these barbed tentacles coming out of the back. Pretty cool. And another design element I like about the figure is on his elbow here. He's got this axe head symbiote type of effect there. Cool. Also has that on his other arm on the back of the elbow there. Pretty cool. Not too much to say about the head sculpt. Fairly plain and basic compared to Carnage and Toxin. As you can see, he's got a swivel for the head and articulation at the shoulders all the way around. A bend at the elbow, single joint, and below the elbow there is no articulation. I also like how the end of his fingers are shaped kind of in a barbed shape there. Pretty cool. I like that. Swivel at the waist, swivel at the hips here, and a bend at the knee, single joint. Below the knee there is no articulation. So this is Lasher. Lasher, I believe, does have a variant, a different color combination. I happen to like this one here. I got this figure loose, so I don't believe he came with any other accessories, as far as I know. But I do like the design with the barbed tentacles. Really cool. This next figure has a very toxic personality. This is the figure review for the Amazing Spider-Man 2006 release of Toxin. And Toxin here, of course, is a character and a figure based on a symbiote. And this is a fantastic figure. As you can see, primarily this figure is colored blood red and black. So just an amazing looking figure. Especially if you like the symbiotes, if you like Venom, if you like Carnage. This is a pretty cool figure. Now, one of the outstanding characteristics of this figure is the hands. The hands are very, very large, very oversized. And it's really a cool feature. I like it. And we can take a look at the head sculpt here. So, very nice figure. I'd like it, again, because I like Venom and Carnage so much. And looking at the back of the figure here. Articulation. The head appears to be on a ball joint. You do have a up and down movement there at the neck. Rotation at the neck. You have shoulders here. Bicep swivel, single point of articulation at the elbow. The actual wrists here articulate back and forth, but they don't swivel on their own. And there is actually a joint here at the fingers, the four fingers, which is pretty cool. You do have a joint at the ab, a swivel at the waist. You do have leg movement, a swivel at the thigh, a double bend at the knee, and a single point of articulation at the ankle. And the ankle really can go back and forth like that. It cannot rotate side to side. So Toxin, pretty cool character. And if you like Venom, if you like Carnage, this is a pretty cool figure. And I think a pretty hard to find figure as well. And for our next freakishly grotesque figure review, we're going to take a look at the Devil Gundam, or as it's known here in the States, the Dark Gundam. And this is one messed up Gundam. And this is from the G Gundam series. And even by that standard, this is a very weird looking mobile suit. And it actually has two other forms. I won't be going into that in this particular review because this is just a look briefly at some of my figures that are sort of Halloween related. But I can tell you that it does have two other forms. And you can see here for its crotch, if you will, it has a big Gundam face. That's because the whole bottom part will turn into a giant Gundam head. In fact, you can see these fins here will become the V-fins for that particular Gundam head. So, just a weird Gundam. Articulation-wise, you have a really tiny head here on a ball joint. You have the shoulder armor, which is independently articulated. And you have shoulders on a ball joint, swivel at the bicep, a 90-degree bend or so at the elbow. The hands themselves are pegged in with ball joints into the wrists. Of course, you have this center section here. Each of these joints here are ball joints. And then you have legs on a ball joint as well. You got a slight bend there at the knee, at least in this mode. And you have these little, I don't know what you call them, but it makes up the feet here. But these articulate as such. So yeah, one ugly looking Gundam. It's just a very strange one. And I may do a full review of this, but like I said, this is just for this particular Halloween special review that I'm just going to show you this form. And you can see the articulation as we just saw. So, the Devil Gundam. This next figure review may just drive you batty. This is a review of the DC Direct Batman and Son Ninja Bat. You heard correctly, Ninja Bat. I'll get to that soon here, but let's take a look at the packaging. You can see there a nice picture of Batman with the Batman and Son logo. And on the back you have a look at the other figures from this particular set. And you have a brief bio of each of those figures or characters. And included with the figure, behind the figure, is a stand. Now I didn't see the actual stand or the base because it was behind the figure like this. So I was very surprised and delighted to actually see this be included with the figure. And it has, you can see they have the peg holes here. And you also get the pegs are included here, you can see. And you really do kind of need a stand with this figure. Yes, he does stand on his own, but it just takes a little bit of effort to do so. And you can see I had him leaning against the back of my reviewing station here. And you can see he does wield the two swords. And they're obviously warped from packaging. And let me go ahead and remove these. And you can take a look at the sculpt of the hands. This hand, you barely can fit the hilt in there. It's just enough space to actually fit the hilt of the blade in there. This hand is more of an open hand, as you can see there. And looking at the head sculpt, you can see it's fairly nicely detailed. The big bat head there. Got some equipment here across his chest. This is actually separate from the actual sculpt of the figure. Got some pouches here at the waist. And I really like the texturing detail in this. It's not really a cape, but really it's part of his, what do you call it? Not his wings. Well, yeah, I guess you call it wings. But the wings here are very nicely detailed. You can see they have like these design in the actual plastic to sort of mimic like creases. So that's really cool. And articulation for this guy is going to be fairly basic. Looks like the head is just a swivel all the way around. And you do have articulation at the shoulders. Just be careful not to tear anything here. So they can go around like that, out to the side a little bit, as such. There is no bicep joint. In fact, there is no joint below the shoulder here. There is no upper body articulation, and there is no waist articulation. You do have the legs, which can go forward, back, but they can't go out to the side. And you have a bend at the knee here. And that is all you have for articulation for this figure. Sculpt is really cool. The idea of a ninja bat is pretty insane, but it's cool. I like it. And like I said, I really like the detailing in the wings here. You do have these little spaces here to put the swords for storage, or holstering, if you will. Like so. So there you go. The Ninja Bat. This next ghoulish figure comes from NECA. This is the Gears of War Skorge figure. And as you can see, he wields a very large weapon. This is the dual chainsaw staff. And it is very nicely detailed and very, very wicked looking. And it does come apart at the middle so that you can actually place the staff in the figure's hands. Now, speaking of the hands, one thing about the fingertips is they are pointed, and while they won't cut you, they are pretty, you can feel them. You can definitely feel there's a sharpness to those fingertips. So I found that kind of interesting as I was trying to pry his fingers open to get the staff in there. And as you can see, if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can actually have the figure wield the two halves of the staff separately. I don't think that's actually accurate to how the weapon is supposed to be used in the game, but you do have that option with this particular action figure. So before we take a look at the details of this figure, let's first take a look at the articulation. Now, starting with the head, the neck joint appears just to be a swivel joint. There is no movement up or down for the head. You do have shoulder articulation all the way around, a little bit in, out to the side. There's a swivel at the bicep, just a hinge joint at the elbow. The elbow itself does not go around, but you do have the articulation for that up here at the bicep. Now, you do have a swivel at the wrist here for the hand. There is no individual finger articulation. You do have a upper body joint here. There is no waist articulation. Legs, all I can really do with the legs is move them and rotate them like this. Can't really, move them forward or backwards or even out to the side really. Just a rotation is all I really can get anymore, and I feel like it's going to break if I force it. So that's all the articulation that appears to be in the upper leg. Then you have a bend and a swivel at the knee, which is different from the elbow. So you do have 2 points or 2 ways you can articulate the knee joint. And then you have just a joint down here for the ankle, which allows the ankle to pivot and go all the way around. Now, what I really love about this figure is the hideous, horrific, yet awesome detail in this figure. Starting with the head, let's take a look at the head up close here. You can see his beady yellow eyes there, his gaping mouth with the forked tongue coming out of the jaws there, and his helmet. The helmet is all part of the head sculpt. It cannot come off. And then you have these not really braids, but leather straps with what's supposed to be like metal at the end. It's not really metal, but it's supposed to be resembling like metal spike tips. Really nicely detailed on those. Fantastic. Take a look at his chest here. He's got some great spiked armor here on his forearm. It's soft plastic, but it doesn't appear to actually come off. I think it's probably glued onto a forearm, which is fine. Back here, part of the back here, you can see it kind of separates from the main body of the figure. This is a soft plastic. In terms of what it looks like, it appears to be part of the figure's body, but it's kind of strange that it comes off like that. You can see back there. I guess this is meant to be his back. And then he has this wonderful kilt or skirt, and it's also, you know, detailed as well. Really nice. Like that a lot. Some more of the spiky armor here on his thigh. And like I say, it's not sharp, but it definitely is prickly. You can feel it when you run your finger over there or push against the tip there. So there is that. So very, very fantastically detailed. And it's one of the figures that I would normally probably would pass up, but the detail on this figure is so phenomenal I had to pick it up. So this is Gears of War Skorge. Three, two, one. And finally, boys and ghouls, we reach our final and 13th review. This figure is a stone cold, petrifying action figure. This is a figure coming from the Curse of the Spawn line. This is Medusa. And first, let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging. And what I like about this packaging is on the back. It shows a lot of the other action figures from Curse of the Spawn, as well as some other toy lines. Okay, onto the figure itself. The really cool thing about this particular set is it actually is a set. Not only do you get the main Medusa figure, but also you get two additional, I guess you'd call them minions or henchmen, as well as a bendy snake. And I will tell you right away that this particular henchman here on the right, or minion, he's very tippy, so if he falls over, that's why. But let's take a look at him. And he actually does have some articulation, and he does come with a weapon. Take a look at him right here. The weapon just barely stays in his hand, but you can see it is very nicely detailed. Articulation is a swivel at the head, a swivel on the right shoulder but not the left shoulder, and a swivel joint at the waist. And that is all you have for articulation. But this figure is really nicely detailed. And like I say, it's nice that you get these two henchmen as part of this figure set. And it's really nicely detailed as well. Not very posable in the sense that it does tend to fall over, especially this one here that I have in my hand right now. But there's a look at one of them. And we'll take a look at the second minion here. You can see he comes with an identical weapon as the previous minion. And his articulation, interestingly enough, the head rotates as you'd expect, but in this case his left shoulder is a swivel, but not the right one. So you can see they're posed just a little bit differently, and they have different, they're different creatures basically. This one has a more like a human skull for a head, and this is more of a different sort of unidentifiable creature. But they are really nicely detailed, as you can see. And just the fact that you get them is very, very nice. Now, I mentioned that it does come with a bendy snake, and you can see you can actually have it posed on the ground like this in a kind of a striking position, like that. But what they tell you you can do on the actual figure herself is you can wrap around her arm and have it, you know, posed something like this. probably around tighter than that. But, you know, you get the idea. It can wrap around her arm. And here is the main event, Medusa, or as they also call her, Gorgon. Very, very wicked looking figure. You can see all the nice snake tentacles coming out of her head. They are pretty poseable. You can see they can bend just a little bit, and they maintain their shape. So that is really cool. She's got something like a wing on the back here, almost like a dragon would have, but you can see it comes out of her shoulder here. Soft plastic, of course, nicely detailed. The tail here does come out. It simply just slots in there like that. And she balances pretty well, although it's a little bit awkward. As you can see, the way that I got her to stand is her heel is, well, her actual foot is above the ground, but her heel is on the ground for her left foot. Really, actually, now that I look at it, she does have heels on both of her feet, and they are, as you can see, detailed like they're like bone. So that's a really cool detail. But yeah, look at that head sculpt. Stone cold, petrifying gaze. Just give a 360 of her head here. That's just fantastic. Very, very cool. Take a look at her torso here. Now her hands, she can't really hold anything in her hands. I suppose you could wrap the snake tight enough around so she can hold the snake, but the hands are sculpted or formed more of an open palm than anything else. She does have peg holes in the bottom of her feet, and articulation is fairly basic. It looks like just a standard swivel joint, and left and right, of course, as you expect. Then you have shoulders on a swivel joint. Now it's a little stiff there. And below the shoulder there is no articulation, except for you have a swivel at the wrist, and you have articulation at the hip, but below the hip there is no leg articulation. But fantastically detailed, really nice figure, and definitely fits the theme for Halloween. Alright, boys and ghouls, have a safe and fun Halloween. Until next time, I'll catch you later.